It's time for the inquiry to resume. Mr. Cameron, just before the break, you were going to review whether you had any further questions in chief for your witness.
I don't.
Thank you. And just before I ask Mr. Parker to ask any questions in cross-examination, there was a mention of a plan showing the highway boundary. Has that been provided or shared, or?
I believe it's been sent to the applicant as requested, and I think they were going to come back. We sent it through to Adam. You were going to come back with confirmation as to whether you're happy with it. So I don't think it's been submitted to the programme officer yet.
No, we're considering it, and we're checking it with the County Council records and with the land registry plans at the moment. So that is all in hand. We're not sitting on it.
Okay, thank you. In that case, Mr. Parker, please.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Orton. I want to just start by asking you some questions about some documents we've already looked at, but just to hopefully set the parameters for the questions that I'm going to come on to ask you about. So you described in your evidence in chief that you had assessed the CPPF alternative by reference to the document which appears at CD 931. So if you can just very quickly take that document out again and look at the drawing on PDF page 36.
Yes.
The annotated aerial photograph. You've got that. You've got
I have that in front of me.
And we can see there that the assumption that was made by WSP at that time was that there would be an extension of the carriageway to the south. And you can see there which would result in the loss of hedgerow and trees, which we can see marked in black on that aerial photograph, yeah?
Yeah.
And then, so when we read your proof of evidence and we see loss of vegetation and tree loss on the southern side of Madingley Road, that's essentially what you're talking about there.
Yes.
Then we now have the drawings which appear in Appendix F to Mr. Johnston's proof. So if you can take out that, please, and turn to PDF page 89.
Going to the plans themselves, Mr. Parker?
Yes.
Right. I don't think I've copies.
I'm grateful. So it's frame 3 in Appendix F.
That's the general arrangement.
Yes.
Should I have the number, please? Page number.
Are you working from the PDF?
Yes.
So 89.
Oh, right. Pardon.
And then it's
Yes.
frame 3
Frame 3.
is at the bottom.
Yeah.
And if you zoom in, Ms. Wilson, you get obviously a significant great amount of detail.
Yes.
And we can see here that there is an extension of the carriageway to the north, and we can see if you zoom in a lot, you can see that the yew hedge is actually marked beneath the purple line in very faint writing. I'm not sure whether it's visible on the paper copies, but on the electronic version, the purple line essentially runs down the line of the yew hedging.
Right.
Can you see that, Mr. Wilson?
Yes, I can.
And you can see
it's somewhat within the yew hedging, although at this scale on a PDF, I think it's fair to say it runs along the line of the hedging.
And you can see the yew hedging annotation on the plan that you're looking at.
Yes.
Yeah. So there we get a sense of the relationship between the carriageway and the yew hedging as is proposed. On the southern side of Madingley Road, we can see there isn't that same extension into the area which comprises the vegetation and the trees, and we can go to this document if you want to see it, but attached to the proof of evidence of Mr. Woodfield, who is the ecologist for CPPF. I don't know if you have considered his evidence at all.
I don't believe so.
You don't believe so. So just assume for the purposes of my questions, and it won't be held against you if you make this assumption, that there is no tree loss or vegetation loss as a result of the works to create this scheme on the south side of Madingley Road, okay?
Let's assume that, yes.
We'll assume that. Now, you can see, obviously, from these drawings that as they appear on frame 3, there is retained on the northern side of Madingley Road a verge between the carriageway and the hedge, yeah?
Right.
That's correct. That's what, I mean, we agree that's what we're looking at on this drawing, yeah?
Yes.
And in terms of, I think you referred at points to the Green Island, which I think is the area of land, correct me if I'm wrong, at the entrance to the American Cemetery, there's a U-shaped entrance, and enclosed within that U-shaped entrance is an area of green space. Yeah.
That's right.
That's
yes.
what you're referring to when you refer to the Green Island.
Between the two entrances, yes.
And we can see, can't we, on this scheme as it's presented, that there would be an incursion into that Green Island, but that the majority of the Green Island would be retained, including the trees. Yeah.
Well, there is one small tree to the west,
Yeah.
which would not be retained, and I'm unclear as to whether or not we might go into any tree protection areas, preservation areas, but as depicted, it looks like that certainly the trunks of the trees are out of it.
Yeah. So subject to the caveat marked in red, that there would need to be some consideration of the root protection zone of that tree on the left-hand side. As far as that drawing is presented and subject to your concerns about root protection zones, we can see, can't we, that there would be no trees lost and the majority of the Green Island would be retained, wouldn't it?
It would.
Yeah.
Mr. Wilson, could you just speak up a little bit, please?
I'm sorry. That's probably much better.
Now, you were taken to some cross-section drawings in an appendix to the rebuttal of Mr. Lonergan, which made assumptions as to how the CPPF alternative scheme would need to be engineered. You recall those questions in your examination in chief?
Yes.
Which involved essentially raising the height of the carriageway, which would have consequential impacts for the yew hedge. Yeah?
Yeah.
Now, there is a dispute between the applicant and CPPF as to whether there would be a need in engineering terms to deliver the scheme in the way that Mr. Lonergan has presented in his cross-sections, okay? Now, that is not obviously a matter for you, but again, for the purpose of my questions about the potential heritage effects of the CPPF alternative, I want you to assume that the road can be built in a way that does not physically impinge upon the yew hedge, okay? Now,
right.
Again, not going to be held against you, not a matter for you, but I want you to assume that when we're looking at the plan drawings in frame 3, that they can be delivered in the way shown on that plan, which is to say the extension of the carriageway to the north, but the retention of some verge between the carriageway and the yew hedge, okay? As shown on that plan.
As shown on the plan, yes.
Yep. Good. Now, so that sets the scene, because we know what area of land we're talking about by reference to the 3 heritage assets that you referred to in your examination in chief. So we have those 3 heritage assets, which are the memorial, the registered park and garden, and then Madingley Mill. Now, you've dealt with them together, and I'm happy to ask you some questions together, but obviously they're separate designated heritage assets and would need to be considered separately by the inspectors.
Yes.
In terms of their effects. In terms of the American Cemetery, you have a description of its significance in your proof of evidence at paragraph 5.10 on page 46. So I just want to have a look at that.
Would you mind giving me a paragraph?
So it's section 510?
Section 510.
Just
Okay.
for the moment, that's the general reference. Then I'm going to take you to some specific references in just a moment when everyone's there.
Jolly good.
So you have you set out the historic background, and I presume that much, if not all of this, is taken from the listing, which appears in the appendix to your proof of evidence. Is that right?
That's the body of the thing, yes.
Yeah. And then at paragraph 5.10.10, you have a statement of significance. And I just want to ask you a reference at 5.10.13. In that section, you say all three assets are located on an elevated position with long views to the north. These views are significant to the memorial and cemetery as part of the planned landscape and memorialisation of fallen servicemen, and significant to Madingley Mill due to the elevated position's relationship with its function. Taken overall, setting makes a high contribution to the significance of these assets. Now, you deal with setting in a separate section underneath as well, but just in terms of what you're saying at 5.10.13, as I understand it, what you're talking about there is the relationship between those three assets and the landscape to the north. That's right, isn't it?
That's what I'm referring to in that paragraph.
In that paragraph. You're not talking about the relationship between the assets and their relationship with Madingley Road to the south. Is that right?
In that paragraph.
In that
Right,
paragraph. Now, we can see then when we come on to the setting that the American military cemetery is described at 5.10.14. Now, when you refer to the American military cemetery, are you talking both there about the memorial and the registered park and garden?
Yes.
Now, so both of those heritage assets, as you say there, are defined and experienced primarily by the relations and connections with the architecture and monuments located within it.
Yes.
That's right, isn't it? In other words, it's an internal experience. That's right, isn't it?
Primarily, yes.
Primarily an internal experience. So the relationship between the assets and the wider landscape is a secondary part of the experience of the significance of those assets. That's right, isn't it? I mean, it must follow from what you said.
That's fair.
That's fair, yeah. So in terms of setting, we're in sort of secondary importance, and it's right, and we know from what you said at 5.10.13 that insofar as the wider landscape is important, albeit secondarily, it's the wider landscape to the north which plays the most important role in terms of setting. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
So already when we're thinking about the relationship between both the heritage assets which make up the American cemetery, the relationship between those assets and Madingley Road is very much a secondary part of their significance, isn't it?
It is. You can't really slice significance up into fractions. It's not quantifiable in that manner. The setting, the internal setting, and the vistas to the north are very important. The approach to the cemetery from Madingley Road and the experience of going through into it is also important.
Yeah, no one's saying it's not important. But I'm just reflecting the language that you yourself have used in your written evidence, and you've used the word primary.
Yes.
And you say primarily what's important is the internal arrangement. Yeah. Therefore, secondarily, relationship with the outside. And in terms of that relationship with the outside, primary views in relationship to the north, secondary relationship with Madingley Road. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I've given some qualification to that point.
Yeah.
but I would
Okay. Now, in terms of then what we're looking at, because recall we're looking at an extension of the carriageway at ground level towards the yew hedge, yeah, into the verge. That's what we're talking about. Let's start then, I want to separate this out. Let's start with the memorial. You said in your examination in chief that the curtilage of the memorial extends to the cemetery wall, yeah? Is that right?
to the memorial wall.
To the memorial wall. So I'm not quite sure the technical term. I mean, when you look at the...
I believe it's called the Wall of the Fallen, or words
Okay.
of that nature. It's got the names of the people that are present,
Yeah.
interred within the...
I mean, just to be clear, it's a wall which is obviously a significant structure. It's above head height. You can't see through it or over it when you're inside the cemetery, can you?
Right.
That's right, isn't it?
Can I just be clear? Are you talking about the listed building or the registered park and garden?
The listed building.
At the moment, we're talking
Yeah.
about the listed building.
It has a number of apertures, spaces, entrances and exits.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's a pretty substantial structure, yes.
Yeah. So aside from obviously there's entrances and exits into it, but when you're within the curtilage of the listed building, there's no visual relationship between the curtilage of the listed building and the road, aside from when you get views out through the entrances. That's right, isn't it?
Yes, from inside.
Yeah. So for the most part, your experience of the asset is constrained within a wall, essentially, aside from when you're at the entrance.
Yeah, when you're on the inside.
Yeah. And then, in terms of the relationship between the memorial and its surrounds, we obviously have the wall, then we have the car park, don't we? And the entranceway. That's right, isn't it?
That's right.
We then have, in some parts, the trees within the green island. Yeah, that's right, isn't it?
Right.
And then we also have the hedge, yeah, which provides a physical barrier between the memorial and the road, yeah?
Right.
That's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you say right, I'm going to assume
Yes,
that
that's
you're saying
right.
yes. Sorry.
Yes.
And then we have the verge behind the hedge. Now, there's no visual relationship between the verge at ground level and the memorial itself, is there? Even in the gaps when you can see the road.
I'm sorry, would you mind repeating?
There's no visual relationship between the verge at ground level and the memorial,
The listed building.
the curtilage of the listed building and its curtilage.
Well, as you come into the complex, you will be able to see both in some views, not very long. But
No.
as you come in, verge there, the building and structure extends off on your right-hand side.
Okay. I mean, let me cut to the quick, Miss. It surely can't be your position. We're going to come on and look at the registered park and garden.
Sure.
But just dealing with the memorial, it surely can't be your position that by extending the carriageway to the north, in the way that we've seen on the plan, that development would have an effect on the significance of the memorial in terms of its setting, or is that your position?
Yeah, that's my position.
So, and that's because when you are travelling into the cemetery, you will see the wall and the verge at the same time, or
Well, you do now.
yeah.
If the verge is taken away, then that entrance is somewhat diminished. And it's not a big space between the Madingley Road and the entrance to the cemetery.
Yeah.
It's I don't know.
But we're talking about the listed.
meters.
We're talking about the listed building, which has a curtilage, which is separated from the road by a wall, and then there's a car park, and then there's a hedge.
Well, the wall is part of the building.
Yeah, okay. But for the most part, it's experienced internally. We have the wall, we have the car park, we then have the hedge. All of that would remain exactly the same in terms of the setting for the memorial. All that would be changing is that you'd be extending the carriageway northwards slightly, in a way that retains a verge between the carriageway and the hedge. But it's your professional opinion, is it, that simply that extension of tarmac at ground level would have a detrimental effect on the setting of the memorial? Is that right?
For that design that you're referring to, yes, I did assess that as being, what did I say, low end of less?
Well, it's quite hard to tell because you deal with the assets together. That's why I wanted to deal with them separately, because I didn't understand you to be suggesting that in terms of the memorial, for all the reasons that I've put to you, merely extending the tarmac slightly towards the hedge would have any effect on the memorial. But if that's your position, then I'll ask Mr. Littlewood to deal with that. But that's your position, is it?
Yes, because of the fact that buildings have an exterior as well as an interior.
Yeah.
And the listed building is not merely the building at the end on the eastern side.
Yeah, and you've accounted for that, have you? Sorry, just to be clear, you've accounted for that in your judgment, the fact that the car park wouldn't change, the car park would be there, the Hugh hedge wouldn't change, that would still be there, and that there's already a road with tarmac relatively close to the Hugh hedge. You've accounted for all of that in your judgment, that extending the tarmac slightly to the north would have a detrimental effect on the setting.
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's move on to the registered park and garden. And again, I mean, I don't want to repeat all of the points that I've made, but the same goes for the registered park and garden, doesn't it? That it's experienced primarily internally. That's right, isn't it?
Yes.
That the relationship, the most important relationship between the asset and the wider landscape is to the north.
Yeah.
And so when we're talking about the relationship between the registered park and garden and Madingley Road, that's of secondary importance to the internal relationship and the relationship to the north, yeah?
It is important as opposed to very important. I think secondary importance is not a term of phrase that I would use.
Well, you've used the word primary.
Yes.
And if something's primary, then there must be something which is secondary to that primacy. It must follow as a matter of ordinary use of language and logic, yeah? Primary means first, and if you're not primary, then you're not first, so you're of secondary importance, yeah?
Yes, I'm merely adding again the qualifier that doesn't mean it's not important.
No, and no one suggested that it isn't, but I just it's important to put these things in context, isn't it? Because one has to adopt a sense of proportion to the assessment that you're undertaking. That's right, Mr. Wilson, isn't it? Yeah.
Very good.
So it's right, isn't it, that the relationship between the RPG and the road is of secondary importance to the other matters that you've described, isn't it?
Have you not already asked that question?
Well, yes, but I didn't get an answer to it, and you queried my use of language, and I'm asking you now to confirm your position. You say that I can do it. We could go around the circles again, but the primary feature of significance is the internal relationship, yeah? And the relationship to the wider landscape must therefore be secondary, because it's not primary. That's right, isn't it?
Okay.
Well, I'm just going to ask.
All right, yep, fine.
Yes. And then when we're talking about the wider landscape, the primary relationship is with the landscape to the north, which means the relationship with Madingley Road is of secondary importance. That's right, isn't it?
Okay. I accept that.
Thank you. Now, again, in terms of, here the registered park and garden would extends, we've seen from the plans, up to the yew hedge, yeah. And as I understand your position, we see, if we just turn back to your written evidence and tie ourselves to that, 5.10.15, the final sentence there, we see the verge that separates the cemetery from the road itself contributes to the overall setting by providing a green boundary from the road to the cemetery. Now again, if we look at the effect of the CPPF scheme, we would still have a verge between the carriageway and the hedge, wouldn't we? Albeit a one of lesser width. That's right, isn't it?
That's right.
So there would still be that function that the verge would contribute by providing a green boundary from the road to the hedge, albeit one of lesser width. That's right, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. So that functionality would remain in terms of the role played by the verge to the setting. That's right, isn't it?
Right.
Well,
Yes.
I'm sorry to pick you up on you keep saying right. I just want to be clear. When you say right, could you equally say yes or?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, that's right. Thank you. So so on that basis, I mean, you took issue with the way that Mr. Littlewood had described the effect of extending the carriageway to the north into the verge as having a very low level of harm, but on the assumption that there's that the verge continues to provide a boundary between the carriageway and the yew hedge, it must be right, mustn't it? Given all of the context that we've described before, the secondary importance played in terms of the relationship between the cemetery and road, it must be right that simply extending the carriageway but retaining the function of the verge leads to a very low level of harm. I mean,
Well, I've assessed it as being a low level of harm.
yeah, okay. Now, if we can just take up the letter from the, I think it's from the warden, although I'm not sure he calls himself the warden of the American Cemetery, which is at CD, thank you, CD 1616.
Right.
Tell me when you've got that.
I have it in front of me.
That's
Thank
great.
you.
And then if we look on, so it's page 5 of the PDF, page 2 of the letter.
Mm-hmm.
We see the concern raised by the American Cemetery is that expansion of the verge towards the yew hedge risks further damage to this original feature, and the reasons of concern given specifically are that these would bring vehicle emissions and winter salt physically closer to the hedge, thus increasing stress on the plants. So I just want to ask you a couple of questions about that, because if you look at the CPPF alternative, the carriageway that would be closest to the hedge would be the cycleway footway. You're aware of that, aren't you?
Mm.
And then the next carriageway would be the busway, yeah?
Right.
So in fact, the effect of the CPPF scheme would be to move the vast majority of vehicular traffic, so that's a two-way vehicular traffic which currently drives along the road, away from the American Cemetery. You're aware of that?
Well, I'd have to have a look at the drawings in detail, because the proposed cycleway would go on. Oh, pardon me. No. Okay. I'm getting ahead of myself. No, if the cycleway is within the existing highway, then yes, you're right. Whether or not that would have an effect as far as vehicle emissions and winter salt and effect on the hedgerow, I don't know. These are not things which I have included in my assessment because they are not within my purview.
No, but you asked questions about it, and these are the concerns raised You're not qualified, and I'm not qualified to ask you about the effects of winter salt on hedges. But so far as the concerns raised by the American Cemetery are concerned about extension of the road towards the hedge are concerned, actually the CPPF scheme would be of benefit by comparison to the current situation, because it would move vehicular traffic further away from the U hedge rather than closer.
Well, again, I can't speak to that, and it's not within my specialism, and I haven't included it in my assessment.
Okay. I'm only asking you questions about this because you were asked questions about them in examination in chief and appeared to attach some significance to them. But
to this was raised in the context of the age of the hedgerow.
Of the hedgerow, yeah, okay. And again, the only other concern raised by the American Cemetery is that the construction itself might irreparably damage or destroy the plants. Now, let's assume again that you can build the carriageway in the way described by CPPF without damaging the yew hedge. That's not within your expertise. I'm not going to ask you about it. But it's right that if you could, then the concerns that have been raised by the cemetery itself about the widening of the A1303. In fact, when you look at the CPPF alternative, those concerns don't arise, do they? Because of the way the CPPF alternative is delivered.
Again, I can't comment on that. I'm not involved in designing how the road would be built and whether or not that would affect the hedgerow's route.
Okay.
I can't comment on that at all.
So that is the American Cemetery, so the memorial and the RPG. I want to look at Madingley Mill.
Right.
Now, obviously, we don't have, in terms of Madingley Mill, as I understand it, let's see what you say in your written proof of evidence. So you deal with this, the setting of Madingley Mill at 5.10.17.
Yeah.
And you say it has a rural character, green space and long views. Primary relationships of the mill to its setting are the farmyard and its immediate surroundings, the elevated long views to the north, and the winds are associated with its function. I mean, you don't there, Mr. Wilson, refer at all to the relationship between the windmill and Madingley Road.
No, well, I wouldn't.
Okay.
The reason being that what I'm describing there are the things which contribute to its significance.
Okay, so
I haven't gone on to talk about anything intrusive that might detract from that significance.
Okay, so we can agree that the relationship between Madingley Mill and Madingley Road, that Madingley Road doesn't make any contribution to the significance of Madingley Mill.
Certainly not.
And I mean, let me just cut to the quick then. It's right that simply extending the carriageway north towards Madingley Mill in that location is not going to have any effect whatsoever on the significance of Madingley Mill.
I'm not sure how you reached that conclusion, but as far as I'm concerned, Madingley Road is intrusive to that setting.
Yeah.
And increasing the degree to which it is intrusive would be harmful.
Well, that's not what you... I mean, well, when you say increasing the degree to which it is intrusive, what are you talking about? Because I had assumed and understood from your evidence that in terms of traffic movements along Madingley Road, there'd be no material increase in your view.
No.
Right. So what we're talking about is extending the carriageway at ground level further north. Yeah, that's the extent of the physical infrastructure which is being proposed as part of the CPPF alternative. Now, given the existing presence of Madingley Road, what possible effect could the slight extension of the carriageway north towards Madingley Mill have on the setting of Madingley Mill, given that you've accepted that Madingley Road doesn't play any positive role in the setting of the asset?
Well, that is my view, and I believe I'm just referring to the drawings, if you wouldn't mind. I'm not sure that there wouldn't also be some associated loss of good vegetation as part of the design.
Well, assume again, for the purpose of my questions, I thought we agreed at the outset that there wouldn't be any. Well, I can take you to Mr. Woodfield's proof of evidence, but assume there wouldn't be any loss of vegetation. Right. Assume that what is happening is simply the widening of the carriageway at ground level.
Okay. Assuming that there is no loss of vegetation, then yeah, the widening of the carriageway wouldn't be particularly significant.
It wouldn't have any effect on...
Sorry, Mr. Wilson, I didn't catch your reply at all.
I'm sorry.
I'm
being asked to assess something which is not the design that I looked at, by removing an aspect of that design, and so I'm a little bit at sea there, because I haven't had time to consider the possibility of what the design might be like if it wasn't the design that I assessed. That being said, Mr. Parker, you are correct that the primary thing which I have identified, which is harmful, is loss of vegetation, not the movement of the road closer to the mill.
So, I mean, I don't want to ask you a question. Mr. Cameron asked you a series of questions in examination in chief about the CPPF alternative which had been presented in the proof of evidence. So I'd assumed that you'd familiarised yourself with that scheme enough to be able to give those answers, and obviously that scheme's been available since the proofs of evidence were produced. But if these questions are in some way unfair, then you'll tell me. But I just want to pressure on that. So extending the carriageway north, in and of itself, would not have any detrimental effect on the setting of Madingley Mill, would it?
For Madingley Mill, possibly not, because unlike the other two assets that are in question here in this location, it is set back, it is divided by other pathways. It doesn't really have a relationship as it's not a place that people visit.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Those are all the questions I have for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I'm assuming there's nobody else opposing the scheme who's got any questions for Mr. Wilson. Just before I ask Mr. Cameron if he's got any further questions, have you got any? Sorry? Oh, for a few. Shall I go first? Yeah, sure. Okay, I've got a few questions. Just bear with me. Mr. Wilson, may I just ask you a bit more about your understanding of the evolution of the cemetery? You've already pointed out that, from your understanding, that the hedge was contemporary with the layout of the cemetery, if I've understood that correctly.
Yes, that's what they tell us.
And you got that from the superintendent's letter. Do you have any? What about other features in there, like the car park? Do you know when that was laid out?
I don't know about the car park. I believe that. I mean, again, you're better off asking an arboriculturalist, but some of the trees are pretty old. I imagine that there's been phases of woodland management that have taken place, but it's pretty mature. If you stand within the car park, you can see pretty substantial trees around.
And there's been reference made to the stone markers.
Yes.
I recall seeing them briefly, but could you describe to me sort of where they are in relation to hedge, verge, carriageway?
Right. They are they're two somewhat monolithic structures. I don't know, what are they, about 5 feet tall probably, and they are on either side of the entrance. So they sit potentially within the verge. Precisely where they fit in relation to the highway boundary is not something that I can answer. But there's a good bit of grass between them and the hedge, and another bit between. So they're about halfway between the hedge and the carriageway. They just display the name of the cemetery for people coming from either direction.
And do I take it from that is your view that they're outside or inside the designated landscape?
They're outside the registered park and garden, as depicted on the plan which Historic England have placed in for free use online.
And do you know what age they are? Are they recent, contemporary with the? You don't know?
I don't know, and it's a fair question. I wouldn't. I mean, they're attractive. They contribute to the character. They signpost the place. They contain a suitable level of gravity. Whether or not they are themselves of any kind of heritage interest is a good question.
Thank you. Those questions I had about the American cemetery. I just wanted to ask a question. I've got some questions here. You've identified a number in the ES, a number of heritage assets, both designated and non-designated, where you've identified there would be some adverse effects. And I just want to ask a bit more about those. Having said that, though, I'm not going to ask about the ones which are in the West Cambridge Conservation Area,
right? Because
I'll save questions I've got about those until you come back to consider evidence in that vicinity.
Okay.
So the first one is you mentioned that you think there would be an adverse effect on the significance of the Schlumberger Gould Research Centre,
yes,
the Grimshaw building. Although your proof doesn't really say very much about what that effect would be. Can you actually explain what the effect would be and why it'd be harmful?
So there's some alteration to the hard landscaping, and there's also the volume of buses passing. It's an environment which is scholastic in its character, so there's a fair few people around, but it isn't busy by any means. Schlumberger Gould Research Centre sits back from the road, so although there are some alterations to the setting, as I've described, it's divided from them by vegetation and its own car park. So I felt that the level of harm is towards the bottom of the range of less than substantial in that case.
And what is it about the significance of that particular building that the sort of the additions to hard landscaping and the number of buses passing what part of the significance of that building have you identified that would be affected by those features?
Well, I've not been in it, obviously, but it is a sort of it has the character of a place where great minds are working away, and it's, as I say, quite quiet industry. It's probably a good way of describing it, and I feel that intrusiveness into that is harmful.
Thank you. And was there anything else other than hard landscaping and the buses that you'd identified would affect that significance?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Yes, I'd have to refer to my notes, I'm afraid. It is, I mean, the harm is very low. But it's right at the bottom of less than substantial.
Look, that's fine. But moving on now, as was also discussed, I think, during your examination in chief with the, and I'll call them the entrance lodges to Childerley Hall for ease.
Sure.
Those are non-designated assets, so I think you, again, you identified that there would be less than substantial harm to their significance. Again, could you just confirm to me what aspects of their significance would be harmed and what aspects of the proposed scheme would cause that harm?
So they sit on a relatively quiet junction. They're separated from the main road by a hedge to the north, which is running alongside the road which has bisected the route north to Childerley Hall. So there will be the passage of buses going across that area, which will be to an extent visible, and as such there'll be an increase of noise and visual disturbance. So again, that was assessed as being a low adverse impact. It's well towards the bottom of the range of less than substantial harm.
Thank you. Again, you again identified harm to the setting, or rather harm to the significance of Cotton Conservation Area in terms of effects on its setting. Again, you do provide a bit of information in your proof, but could you say a bit more about what aspects of the proposed scheme would cause harm and what characteristics of the conservation area's significance you think would be affected?
Well, the proposed scheme does two things which are harmful. One is that it crosses a key approach into the conservation area, which is Cambridge Road, and the second is that it creates new built form in the surrounding landscape. Now, the conservation area is an inwardly focused village setting, centred around St Peter's Church, and as such, the surrounding agricultural landscape, it is a contributory setting, but you don't need to take in too much of the landscape in order to understand that you are in a rural village in Cambridgeshire. So although those two effects are harmful, they don't go to the heart of what it is that matters in terms of the significance of the conservation area. and as such, I've found them to be less of substantial harm towards the low end.
Thank you. And just one further thing. I just want to make sure I've got the correct plan here. Apologies. It's that time in the day where I've got so many tabs open. I've just let me just start again. Make sure I'm giving you the correct reference. It's the first heritage technical report. Which I'm pretty sure it's CD 111071.
Right, I have it in front of me.
And yes, so apologies for the delay in getting you there. So there's a figure 2.4, which is historic environment features map, and there's one of a series of maps where it identifies conservation areas, archaeological sites, listed buildings, and
Right.
oh, I'm sorry, page 160 on the PDF. And in the top left-hand corner of that particular map. Sorry, are you?
Right. Yes, I have it.
There's there's the number. I think it's 65, which is the Schlumberger Gold Institute.
Yes.
And then there's an indication that says High Cross. And then
Yes.
just on the other side of the road, there's a series of 3 listed buildings: 140, 141, 142, and that's on a street called Conduit Head Road. Now, somewhere in the evidence, and unfortunately I can't at this moment find it. I thought I saw a reference to a conservation area at Conduit Head Road, which, if there is one. I was just wondering whether it should be within the 250 metre zone, or perhaps there is one and it's further out than it is. Am I right in thinking that there is one?
You have me at a disadvantage there, sir. I'm sorry, but I'm not familiar. I do wonder whether I see that the red line boundary extends up there. I'm afraid I couldn't tell you whether or not the conservation area you're referring to is within the buffer zone that was specified by the environmental statement.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all the questions I've got at this stage. Mr. Clegg, have you got any questions?
Mr. Wilson, just a couple of things, please. In section 5 of your proof, page 48, and you're talking there about the cemetery and the registered park and garden, the memorial, and Madingley Mill.
Right.
Do you in any way associate the significance of Madingley Mill with the cemetery and the memorial? You often mention all 3 together.
Yes.
And if so, why?
If that is confusing, I apologise. They are not associated. They have been grouped purely through expediency, and because the impacts are very similar. So seeking to keep the word count down.
Right.
One attempts to amalgamate impacts where they're all the same, as I would, for example, a street of listed buildings. I might address in one. However, in this case, as this investigation progresses, it may
So you're not
prove
saying that the
unhelpful.
significance of one derives from the
No,
other?
no.
Okay. And just staying with the mill itself, in paragraph 5.10.13, you talk about the elevated position with long views to the north,
Yes,
and so that's significant to Madingley Mill due to the elevated position's relationship with its function.
yes.
And I just wondered why that was the case, given that the mill apparently is not in its original position. It was moved from elsewhere.
No, it has been moved. And my assumption is that it was moved as a functioning installation. So it would have been it was moved well over 100 years ago, I think.
I think you give us the date.
1903 or something?
5.10.5. 1936. Is it likely to have been
1936.
functioning in the interwar
Yeah.
period?
Possibly not. It's a fair comment.
Okay.
Quite why it was moved, I'm not altogether certain.
Okay.
I'm also not altogether certain. I don't want to disparage or appear to disparage Historic England's judgment, but 2-star is a high designation.
Yes. Thank you. I have nothing else, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, sir. I've got some further questions for you, Mr. Wilson. So, just to clarify some points, you were asked by Mr. Underwood about the position of the signs which are present outside the cemetery.
Yes.
Remember that question?
Yes.
Can I ask you please to take up Mr. Lonergan's rebuttal appendices, please? CD 2601 out W8.
CD26. One moment, please. I have it. Would you mind giving me a
Page 40.
Okay, thank you.
I've got the paper copy, so I hope I've written the right number on. You should have cross-section GG.
I do.
And if you look at that cross-section, see where the proposed cycle lane and active travel route is going to be, shared use path, and can you see a notation, existing decorative sign for the American Cemetery and Memorial?
I do see that, yes. So that confirms its location in relationship to both the highway and the registered park and garden.
So now just keep that drawing to hand for the moment. You were asked some questions about the effect of the CPPF proposal in extending the tarmac surface onto the verge. Do you remember those questions?
Yes.
Now, keep that, if you can, to hand, and I'd like you also to have to hand CD 10616, which is that letter from the American Battle Monuments Commission.
Right.
I don't know whether you're able, because there's some
Yep.
photographs there.
I have that.
If you go to page 5 of that document,
Right.
and you'll see that on the cross section And on the photograph that we have on page 5,
I'm sorry, there are two.
the lower photograph,
Thank you.
it's one of the same thing as the cross-section, the
Right.
verge. But you're quite right to ask. I should have made that clear. Now, is the current verge flat or at a gradient?
Oh, it's quite a steep gradient coming down from the road.
So, when you consider any impact of putting a new bit of tarmac and an active travel path on the verge, and when you're considering impact on the registered park and garden and on the listed building, have you or have you not considered the impact of building up the verge so it's at the same level so people don't have to ride their bikes on a slope?
Yes, if that...
Well, have you? The question was, have you considered that impact?
Yes, it gets a little confusing because there have been a number of different
Yeah.
design options.
Yeah, but please just concentrate on the question, if you could, please. Have you considered the impact of building up the verge? Answer that, and then
Right.
Give
I
your
have,
explanation.
yes,
Thank you.
considered the impact of building up on the verge, yes.
and does that have a material influence or effect on your assessment of impact on the significance of the heritage assets or not?
Yes, it would be more impactful because it's higher. If it was flush with the base of the hedge, then the harmful effect would not be so great.
So when you're considering impact on the significance of the heritage assets, do you just consider a bit of tarmac on otherwise flat land, or do you consider building it up in order to get a flat surface so you have a higher level next to the hedge? Which do you consider?
I would consider the latter.
And does that have an effect, building it up? No, I think you've answered that. Thank you. Now, I'd like to ask you about the wall. You were asked some questions about the wall, the memorial wall being
Yes.
extended to the curtilage. And it was put to you, well, it's outside the wall. Now, if we take a listed building, and I'm going to take an example just to test the point, so don't get distracted by what the building is. If I'm inside a building, say St Paul's Cathedral, I can't see out because there's a wall there. If I go to the outside, does it, when I see the wall, does the fact that there's a wall there, which means I can't see inside, diminish the fact that if I build something or do something on the outside wall, it's able to have an effect on setting?
The
Well, I'll give you another example if that's difficult.
No, it's fine. Please allow me to just pick my words. I would say that if you are doing something outside, then there is potentially an effect, irrespective of how valuable the inside is.
Yeah.
Does that answer your
It
question?
was put to you that the extent of the curtilage is the wall, and you're outside the curtilage.
Yes.
But is setting any less or more important because the edge of the curtilage is a wall?
No, it's not. No. If I may say, the thing about the Grade 2 style listed building at the cemetery is that the cemetery itself, stretching down on the inside of the cemetery, is part of its setting, the area to the south is also a part of its setting. In that way, it differs from St Paul's Cathedral. We're not.
Yeah, let's not. Yeah.
I know you don't.
Yeah.
I know you don't want me to start talking about St Paul's Cathedral, and that's
Well, we're not
absolutely
here
fine.
to discuss St Paul's Cathedral,
No.
and that's always the danger with giving an example. Thank you for that. Now, the primary and secondary point. Do you remember you were asked about
Yes.
this? And again, please do not get distracted. I'm just going to give an example to just understand your answer.
Right.
So if, for example, we were considering a country house which has a garden front and an entrance front, as most of them do,
Right.
and the view was taken that as an example, the garden front was of primary importance and the entrance front was therefore of secondary. Would any impact on the entrance front be any lesser heritage significance or importance because it was a secondary frontage?
No, because it's not like slices of a pie.
So here, if one aspect of setting is primary and another is necessarily, as Mr. Parker put to you, secondary if it's not primary, does it make impact on the secondary frontage any more or less important, or do you assess the extent of the impact in the normal way?
It doesn't make any difference. I would assess it in the normal way. The importance of that aspect of the setting is the importance of that aspect of the setting, irrespective of the importance of any other aspect of the setting.
Thank you. And while we've got the American Battle Monuments Commission document to hand, have you still got it?
I do.
10616.
Yes.
You were asked about this, you were asked about salt and so on, and you very properly said that that wasn't really a matter for you, and I don't ask you about that. But can we just go to page 6,
Right.
and you'll see that there's some numbered paragraphs.
Yes.
And the options which are supported are options that include the following elements. 2, protect the meadow grass, the verge and border shrub by avoiding expansion, road construction on the A1303. So would the CPPF proposals, which would build a active travel route on the verge, would they protect the verge or not?
No, they wouldn't.
Thank you very much. Those are the only questions I've got for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's concluded most things from today. Can I just, there was the question that Mr. Wilson wasn't able to ask about whether or not there's a conservation area, which unhelpfully I can't find the reference. To.
We can help you on that, sir. We'll put a document in, but you asked about it, and the wonders of Google give you the answer in seconds. So there is a conduit head road conservation area. So we'll put in the documents for that. But it's all north of whatever that main road is. But
Well, that'd be helpful. As it happens, because Mr. Wilson is returning, if that gives rise to any questions that myself or Mr. Clegg have, we have the opportunity, thankfully, to
Of course.
to pick that up.
so Mr. Wilson is duly warned.
Well, yes. So, I imagine your evidence in chief will include a question about that. Just a couple of things I want to touch on before I want to bring matters to a close. Mr. Cameron, there's been a costs application, and I'm just asking where your response is, because I think it was indicated that we'd get a written response to that.
So I indicated at the beginning you'd get a written response before the beginning of the next block. And that is what we're intending to do.
Okay.
Same position I said last week.
And but we're very much aware of that.
Okay, thank you. When we've got a non-sitting day tomorrow and Friday, and then there's a non-sitting week. When we resume, I think it looks like it's going to be quite a busy day. So our suggestion is that we'll actually start at 9:30 on that Tuesday. So I just wanted to sort of mention that, because I know that some of the start times have been changing on the programme. I think that's all I wanted to mention. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention, Richard? And just before I adjourn the inquiry, is there anything else that anybody wants to raise at this point?
No, thank you, sir.
No,
Sorry.
Thank you. In that case, the inquiry's adjourned, and we shall resume. I haven't actually got the date in front of me, unhelpfully, on the 14th. Thank you very much.